"Get Ranger over here!" Sam Becker's voice cut through the low hum of the bustling Denver International Airport. The German shepherd at his side was barking furiously at a worn, nondescript suitcase left by an abandoned baggage carousel. Sam's heart raced. Ranger wasn't one to sound false alarms, and this reaction was unlike anything he'd seen before. "Sam, what's going on?" Officer Taylor jogged toward him, his radio already in hand. "Call for backup," Sam ordered. This isn't a drill. But Sam's gut told him this was different. He knelt beside Ranger, running a calming hand over the dog's head, though his eyes remained locked on the object that had caused the commotion. "Bomb squad's en route," Taylor said, his voice low but urgent. "There's no time," Sam replied. His training kicked in, his mind cataloging every possibility. Ranger had identified something alive. Sam was sure of it. His finger hovered over his radio, his decision made. "We're opening it now." Curled up inside was a tiny girl, no older than 4, clutching a threadbare teddy bear to her chest. Her face was pale, her curly black hair matted against her forehead. Her wide, terrified eyes darted between the figures surrounding her. Sam's breath hitched, but he pushed his emotions aside. He stepped forward, lowering himself to her level, careful not to make any sudden movements. "Hey there," he said gently, his voice steady. "You're safe now." As he reached the small examination room, he saw the girl lying on a gurney, wrapped in a blanket. Her eyes were closed, her hand clutching the bear. For a moment, Sam stood frozen in the doorway. Memories he'd buried long ago clawed their way to the surface. His daughter, Grace, and the day he'd lost her. He pushed the thought aside and stepped into the room, determined to focus on the girl before him. Whoever she was, she needed someone. As the doctors worked quietly around her, Sam made a silent vow. He wouldn't let her face this alone. Whatever dark road had led her here, he would see it through to the end. Sam sat quietly in his apartment, the faint hum of the heater filling the silence. Across the room, Lily was perched on the couch, a bowl of cereal in her lap. Her eyes were glued to the window, watching the snowflakes drift down. She hadn't said a word since waking up in the airport's medical center days ago, not even when Sam introduced her to Ranger, who now lay at her feet. His phone buzzed on the counter. It was Grace Callahan, an old friend and private investigator with a knack for finding what the police often missed. "Becca," her voice came through, firm but concerned. "I saw the news about the girl. She's with you. Social Services is overwhelmed. They've got me listed as her temporary guardian until they can sort this out. Either she was never reported missing, or there's something deeper going on. Small town, couple hours from here. Quiet, nothing special on the surface." She nodded, barely lifting her head. "Spaghetti okay?" he asked. She nodded again. He set a small plate in front of her at the table. She climbed into the chair, gripping her fork tightly but barely eating. Sam sat across from her, searching for the right words. "Lily," he began carefully, "do you remember the big house you mentioned? The one with Miss Evelyn? You don't have to talk about it if you're not ready. It's listed as a children's home, but its records are a mess. No inspections for years, no solid paper trail. Something about it stinks." The thought of her enduring any kind of harm made his blood boil. "I'm going to Hollow Creek," he said, his voice steady. "Sam, wait," Grace warned. "You can't just walk in there. If this place is what we think it is, they'll see you coming from a mile away." He packed light, his mind racing with questions he couldn't answer. Who was Evelyn Parker? What was this mansion hiding? And how had Lily escaped whatever horrors she'd faced there? As he loaded his car, Lily appeared in the doorway, her teddy bear clutched to her chest. "Are we going somewhere?" she asked softly, her voice catching him off guard. Sam crouched down to her level. "I have to go check on something, but I'll be back soon, okay?" He had no plan yet, only the unshakable conviction that he needed to uncover the truth. As he neared the small town, the isolation became palpable. Hollow Creek felt frozen in time, with its single gas station, a diner with peeling paint, and a post office that looked more like a relic than a functional building. Grace's car was already parked outside the diner. She sat at a booth near the window, sipping coffee. her face set in the determined expression Sam had come to know well. "Glad you made it," Grace said, as he slid into the seat across from her. "I've been doing more digging while I waited. And here's the kicker. No one who's worked for her stays long. They either disappear, quit, or won't talk. I reached out to a contact who works in child welfare. She set us up as potential donors looking to support Haven of Harmony. Evelyn's agreed to meet us." The building was imposing, its tall iron gates creaking open as they approached. A man in a suit waved them through, his expression unreadable. The mansion loomed ahead, its grand facade a stark contrast to the darkness Sam felt emanating from it. Evelyn Parker met them at the door, a tall woman in her 60s with perfectly coiffed hair and a smile that didn't reach her cold blue eyes. She extended a hand, her movements calculated. "Mr. Becker, Ms. Callahan," she greeted, her tone warm but rehearsed. "Welcome to Haven of Harmony. I appreciate your interest in supporting our mission." As Evelyn led them through the halls, she spoke of her dedication to helping children, though her words felt hollow. "We provide a sanctuary for children in difficult circumstances," Evelyn said. "Our goal is to place them with loving families who can offer them a better future," Grace asked casually, keeping pace beside Evelyn. "We have connections with adoption agencies and private organizations," Evelyn replied smoothly. "Each family is thoroughly vetted to ensure the children are placed in safe, nurturing environments." "Do the children stay here long?" Sam asked, his tone light but probing. "Only as long as necessary," Evelyn said, her smile unwavering. "We aim to transition them quickly to avoid unnecessary trauma." "I hope you'll consider partnering with us," she said. "Every contribution helps us continue this vital work." He didn't know how yet, but he was going to uncover the truth about Haven of Harmony and protect Lily from whatever darkness still lingered in her past. The car's heater hummed as Sam and Grace drove down the icy road away from Haven of Harmony. Neither spoke for a while, each absorbed in their thoughts. Sam replayed the tour in his mind, the locks, the cameras, the fleeting glimpse of the frightened child. His hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white with tension. "She's running a business, not a charity," Grace finally said, breaking the silence. "The question is, how do we prove it?" When Sam walked in, her face lit up briefly, though she quickly ducked her head, returning to her task. He crouched down beside her, gently tapping one of the blocks. "That's a pretty tall tower," he said. "Think it'll stay standing?" She stared at the block in her hand, her brow furrowing. "I don't want to talk about it." The building's paint was peeling, and the stairwell smelled faintly of mildew. He knocked on the door of apartment 3B, his breath visible in the cold air. A man in his late 50s opened the door, his face lined with years of wear. His eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Who are you?" He glanced over Sam's shoulder, as if checking for anyone nearby, before stepping aside. "Come in, but keep your voice down. I don't know where they end up, and I didn't stick around to find out. She's with me now. Whatever Evelyn's hiding, I'm going to expose it, for her and for every other kid stuck in that nightmare. Not without risking your neck, but if you're willing to take that risk, I can tell you how to get inside." He knelt down, pulling her into a hug. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You'll keep me safe, right?" Beside him, Grace adjusted the small earpiece connected to the team they had assembled, a mix of FBI agents and local law enforcement officers. The operation to infiltrate Haven of Harmony was ready to begin. "Everyone in position?" Grace whispered into her mic. A chorus of quiet affirmatives followed. Sam's jaw clenched as he scanned the perimeter. He'd been here once before, playing the role of an interested donor. Now he was back with one purpose: to bring Evelyn Parker's operation to its knees. Inside the mansion, Evelyn sat in her office, sipping tea and flipping through a ledger. Her sanctuary of polished mahogany and crystal was both opulent and cold, reflecting her calculated demeanor. She didn't hear the faint click of the back gate opening or the soft crunch of boots on frozen ground. Outside, Sam led a small team toward the rear entrance. Grace had hacked into the mansion's security feed earlier, looping footage to give them a brief window of opportunity. Sam's heart pounded as they slipped through a side door into the servants' corridor. "Stay quiet," he whispered to the two agents behind him. They moved in silence, their footsteps muffled against the worn carpet. Sam's goal was clear: find Evelyn's office and retrieve the ledger Hartley had described. Without it, their case against her would crumble under scrutiny. Grace remained outside, monitoring the operation from a van parked down the road. Her voice came through Sam's earpiece. "You're clear to move to the West Wing. Evelyn's office should be at the end of the hall. Be quick. Security shifts in 10 minutes. The scuffle was brief and silent, leaving the guard unconscious but unharmed. "We're in," Sam whispered, easing the door to Evelyn's office open. The room was as he remembered, luxurious yet clinical. A grand desk dominated the space with locked filing cabinets lining the walls. Sam went straight for the desk drawers while one of the agents began picking the lock on a cabinet. "Hurry it up!" Sam urged, his voice low but firm. The agent nodded, and a few seconds later the cabinet clicked open. Inside were rows of neatly organized binders. Sam's eyes locked on the one labeled "Financial Records." "Bingo," he muttered, pulling it out. He flipped through the pages, his stomach churning at the evidence, names of children, amounts paid, and destinations that ranged from private homes to anonymous buyers. This was it. This was everything they needed. "We've got it," Sam said into his mic. "Moving to exfil. Do you really think you're the first to try? I have friends in high places. You'll be gone before you can make it to your car." Evelyn tried to flee, but Sam blocked her path. "You're not going anywhere," he said, grabbing her arm. Evelyn's mask of control shattered. "You don't understand what you're meddling in. This goes beyond me. You're putting her in danger." The operation had been a success, but Evelyn's cryptic words lingered in Sam's mind. Back at the van, Grace greeted him with a mix of relief and concern. "You okay? We've got what we need to take her down. Let's focus on that." Across the aisle, Sam watched intently, his arms crossed, the weight of months of investigation and danger etched into his expression. Next to him, Grace whispered updates, but Sam's focus was elsewhere. The prosecution's final piece of evidence was displayed on the overhead projector, a copy of Evelyn's ledger. Names, payments, and destinations stared back at the room, the damning proof impossible to ignore. The prosecutor's voice rang out confidently, detailing the horrifying scope of Evelyn's crimes. Sam's fists tightened as he thought of Lily, safe at home but still bearing the invisible scars of Evelyn's operation. His thoughts were interrupted by the judge's voice. "Miss Parker, you have been found guilty on all charges, including child trafficking, fraud, and conspiracy. You will face the maximum penalty under federal law." "You did it, Sam," she said softly. "Evelyn's going away for the rest of her life. Speaking of her, there's something you should see." Grace nodded. "No blood relatives, no ties, she's completely alone." Lily looked up at Sam, her eyes bright with happiness. "It means he's my dad." She no longer woke up screaming in the middle of the night, her nightmares replaced by dreams of new beginnings. Sam remodeled the guest room into a space just for her. Walls painted a soft yellow, shelves lined with books and toys. Ranger had become her constant companion, the loyal dog rarely leaving her side. One evening, as Sam tucked her into bed, Lily reached out and grabbed his hand. "Do you think my mom would be happy?" she asked quietly, her voice small. Sam sat on the edge of her bed, his expression gentle. "I think she'd be very happy, and I think she'd be proud of how strong you are." Sam, though grateful for the changes, chose to focus on his life with Lily. One afternoon, they visited the park near their home. Lily ran ahead with Ranger, her laughter ringing out as the dog chased a frisbee. Sam sat on a bench, watching her with a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. Grace joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "She's come a long way," Grace said, nodding toward Lily. "So have I," Sam admitted. "I didn't think I could do this again, be a dad. But she changed everything." Enjoyed this thrilling continuation filled with emotion and revelations? Don't miss how it all began. In the previous episode, Sam Becker and his canine partner, Ranger, discovered a little girl abandoned in a suitcase at the airport. That pivotal moment set off a journey full of mystery, danger, and hope. Want to know what led Sam to become the hero of this story? Watch the previous episode and dive into the start of this unforgettable adventure.